Okay, then we have question 8. So this looks to be about topic 6. I have already done these questions, but I'm just going to explain my thought process at this point. So we've got the virus, HPV, so it's a topic 6 kind of question. And it's about the virus structure and how they cause infection. And then we've got a table of data. So tables and graphs, I follow a similar process. I identify what the independent variable is and the dependent variable, i.e. what the x might be and the thing that is having an impact on. In this case, we've got different strains of HPV, okay, and the table is showing whether each strain has a different tendency, because these HPV or the human papillomavirus is causing or is able to cause cervical cancer and genital warts, or at least there's an association between the virus and these conditions, and the table is showing the tendency of each of these different strains to cause either cervical cancer or genital warts in terms of percentage of all cases caused by the strain. Okay, so we've got 4 different strains and we're looking at the numbers, what's the tendency of each to cause cervical cancer or genital warts, and that's indicated by how big or small these numbers are. So it says comment on the relationship between HPV and these 2 conditions. Now, in my experience, comment usually means what do you notice. Let's see how well I do. I might need to change that based on if I keep losing marks because of my interpretation of the question, or especially the command word, then I might need to change my method to answer those kind of questions. But right now I'm going with what do you notice. So what I've gone with, so I'm looking at the data, and what I see is that all the strains have a tendency to cause, so this is less than 1, but I'm assuming it's not 0. So all strains can cause cervical cancer and genital warts. That's my first point. I've got 3 points to make here. Then, what else is it that I see? So that's my first point. My second point is a higher percentage of genital warts are associated with strains 6 and 11. So if we look here at 6 and 11, the numbers for genital warts are much higher than cervical cancer. So 6 and 11 have a greater tendency to be associated with, or are more associated with, genital warts. Whereas if you look at 16 and 18, their numbers for cervical cancer are higher than genital warts. Okay, so that's the patterns that I see. A higher percentage of cervical cancer is caused by strain 16 and 18. Strain 6 has the highest association with genital warts. So strain 6 has got the highest association with genital warts. And did I say, and then I also made a comment about like 16 versus 18, that's a big difference too. So I made a comment about that. So strain 16 has the highest association with cervical cancer. Okay, maybe I could have said versus 18. Okay, right. Okay, but that's my comment question for 3 marks. So I've said at least 3 things that I've noticed. All right, then we've got the table shows 2 vaccines. So this is taking us to vaccines now, immunity and that kind of thing, developed from different combinations of HPV. So we've got 2 vaccines. All right, so Cervarix is made using 16 and 18, and Gardasil is made using all 4 strains. Okay, so it says analyze all the data to explain why the Gardasil vaccine is preferred to the Cervarix vaccine. I've got to say, I did struggle to get 4 things here, but perhaps because it says analyze the data and then it says explain, potentially what I could have done is divided it so make 2 observations and then make 2 explanations. All right, but anyway, Gardasil provides active immunity to all 4 strains. Okay, but that's an explanation point. Gardasil would prevent both genital warts and cervical cancer. So that's me using the data. Okay, Gardasil would prevent both cervical cancer and genital warts, and Cervarix would only prevent cervical cancer. So I'm trying to use the information and I'm trying to make an interpretation. I don't think that's the world's best answer though, but that's what I put down. That's what we're going to go with. Right, then we go, which of the following describes the type of immunity developed by these vaccines? So, vaccines, right, and from what we are looking at, it does look like it's not antibodies. So, because it's a vaccine, what that means is it is artificial, yeah? So, because it's a vaccine, it's not natural. So it's definitely artificial, so we can get rid of C and D. And then we've got artificial active and artificial passive. Now, we're not injecting antibodies. It is a vaccine, so it's not artificial passive. So we will go with A there. All right. Then we've got Cervarix and Gardasil have been used in national vaccination programs. A person who has been vaccinated becomes infected with HPV-16. Explain the role of T cells in the body of this person. So they're not technically or explicitly asking for the entire immune response. They're specifically asking us to explain specifically what the T cells do. Explain the role of T cells in the body of this person. It doesn't say describe the role, so that makes me think a little bit again. But the person's already been vaccinated, right? So what I'm assuming is that we have to talk about T memory cells and what T memory cells can do, and then potentially talk about other types of T cells as well. But maybe because they're saying explain. Okay. I've just gone with talking about different types of T cells. I could be wrong here. T memory cells. So I've gone with talking about T memory cells, and I've talked about T killer cells and T helper cells. Okay. T memory cells are activated by the HPV-16 antigens. Maybe I should explain how they got there in the first place. Because of the vaccination, but it's saying the role of the T cells within this person. So they already have been vaccinated, they already have T memory cells. What are the T memory cells going to do? So T memory cells are activated by the HPV-16 antigens, and if they were to get infected again, they would be activated by the HPV-16 antigens and differentiate into T killer cells more quickly. Okay, so essentially we're kind of describing the secondary immune response here. T killer cells would identify and kill cells infected with HPV-16, maybe I should say using CD4 receptor to identify them. T helper cells release cytokines to activate B cells. So part of the secondary immune response would be you'd need T helper cells to activate the B cells that will make the antibodies to HPV-16 can be produced. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I think I've got 3 things down there. And I've tried to explain what the cells do to address the command word, in this case, explain. Okay, A-gamma-globulinemia. Stem cells in the bone marrow cannot differentiate into B cells. Agamma-globulinemia can be a sex-linked condition. Which of the following describes the production of B cells from bone marrow stem cells? So stem cells are undifferentiated cells, okay, and B cells are not haploid cells. They're not haploid, so they are produced by mitosis and not meiosis. So therefore, because stem cells are not differentiated, I'm going to go with one of these options, and not meiosis, so I end up going with D. All right, state what is meant by the term sex linkage. So a characteristic that is controlled by a gene on the 23rd pair of chromosomes, that's in humans at least, being the X or Y chromosomes, or X and Y chromosomes. Okay, so looking at those 2 marks, characteristic is 2 marks, so maybe it looks like there's a 1 mark there. I wonder if the mark scheme is going to have something a little bit extra for two marks there. I don't know.